I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
To cover up our mistakes.
I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot.
Join us for a journey into the obscure.
You are now listening to The Wow Pod.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
We've got, today we're talking with Heather.
Oh,
And she...
one of our funnest, I would say absolute best interviewees.
and
she's just so easy.
And she is a friend. Is someone we know
Personal.
On a personal level.
Yeah.
She's a friend, and she is our past life hypnotic regression therapist. Boy, that is a mouthful. There has to be simpler words.
Past life regression.
But before we get to that, it's
Oh.
got to be the news.
Got to bring in some weird news. Jared's going to start off today.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we're going to cut into it quick. We recorded the interview with Heather earlier, and it's a little long, but it's very interesting. And if you've been interested in past life or any of that, give her a listen. And, and she also offers up her services and, give it a check out. But to the news. Okay. My first story. This comes from BBC. And Sudan has criminalized female genital mutilation.
Okay, so in the traditional sense of genital mutilation that was done as a way to control the female population, or in all senses, as in like transitioning from female to male and such?
In the traditional way.
Ooh.
Let me read
They
this
just
story.
barely did that?
Well, yeah, but it's a step forward.
It's a huge step forward, but I can't believe it hasn't been taken yet.
Some 87% of women between the age of 14 and 49 have undergone some form of FGM, according to the UN.
Have undergone makes it sound very voluntary.
It usually happens when they're children.
Yeah, it's completely involuntary. It is barbaric, and if you don't know about it,
and it's a religious practice in
Yes.
some states, some cases. Also, it is a tradition for them. I still, whether it's a tradition, I think it's heinous.
it's awful.
And I also believe that circumcision needs to be looked at.
Well, I think just given what we know about it today,
Yes.
I think it's barbaric as well.
Yes. But in Sudan, it's common for women to get their inner and outer labia and usually their clitoris removed.
Yeah.
That is okay. FGM can result in urinary tract infections, uterine infections, kidney infections, cysts, reproductive issues, and pain during sex. Also, you're cutting a wound into a baby in a delicate area. Let's just talk about that. I mean, you're cutting a wound, purposely cutting a wound.
And we have to recognize that a lot of these are done in non-sterile conditions. There are horrific stories.
Mud huts, not.
Yeah, there are horrific stories of people who have survived these types of FGM, and unfortunately, have had to have lots of reconstructive surgery to repair.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad they outlawed it. Too late,
Well,
too long, but it's a
it's
huge step forward.
It has gone on too long.
It has gone on too long.
But it sounds like there's a global trend towards banning it.
Good.
So that's good.
Good stuff.
High five to the Sudanese legal system for banning it.
I think the more that we can view infants as people and not property, the better off we'll be.
It's crazy. This goes with and we could argue circumcision. If anyone wants to argue it, we go ahead. But if you're a religious person and think that your creator sent you here imperfect and you have to remove a part of that person, right, that's kind of an odd thought to think.
It is.
And the arguments for cleanliness and all that has been thoroughly debunked by medical science.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Sudan has done away with FGM. We're proud of them. Good job, Sudan. And I'm very happy. I was happy when I read that news the other day. It lifted my spirit.
Good stuff.
There's no, there's less little girls going through the pain and suffering. Betsy's got a fun story now.
Okay. My story, it's funny, but only because I want to imagine having had a seat in the front row to watch this take place. It's not funny for the poor woman. Eliza Ruth Watson, she was on Mountain View Road in Portland. It's typical Thursday morning. She's gardening,
Eliza Ruth.
Yeah, Eliza Ruth.
How old is she? She's 90. Just the.
Well, I don't.
I shouldn't infer that on her. That's horrible, but that just sounds like a name that had come across on a stagecoach.
It's a very traditional name. It's very aged.
Wearing those shoes that go up past your ankle and a dress that goes down past it, and hard wooden soles and a bonnet.
So she's wearing gardening gloves, thankfully, but she's gardening, and she said she notices this fox, and normally these foxes have the big fluffy tails, and they're pretty skittish. Her and her husband raise poultry, so she's familiar with foxes, and she says this whole altercation had to be hilarious. She says that at first she stands up and she notices this fox and she's screaming, ah, ah, ah. She's waving her arms trying to get the fox to run away. Well, in fact, the fox does exactly the opposite and bolts for her. So she says, you don't really think when this sort of thing is happening what to do, but she says she immediately went to try to choke the fox, to try and strangle it to death. And that sort of ended up trying to do what she trying to do, but it would not back down. It just continued fighting her and biting her and scratching her and attacking her.
Wow.
And so she has her pot she had been putting her weeds into to take back to feed to the poultry, and so she stuffs the fox into the pot, and she's trying to put the lid on and keep the pot in the pot, or the fox in the pot, and this thing goes on and on and on, and she ends up with all these scratches and
bites,
and she's on the phone with 911, and she says she's in tears, and she's got this fox trapped inside this pot. And anyway,
the fox in the pot.
She says the fox was very live and grimy and bendy and wiggly. And she says she wasn't sure how to intelligently handle its attack. It's not like an alligator wrangling where you can position yourself on top of the alligator. I've never had to wrestle a fox before. And so she was at the hospital, and everybody kept asking, are you the lady that wrestled the fox? Are you the lady that wrestled the fox? So apparently it was this thwarted attack. This fox noticed her for whatever reason. I don't know why a fox would attack. They are generally very skittish creatures, like boo, and the fox is gone. And this fox lunged at her, and she fought the fox to the death by choking it and poking its eyes and wrestling it on the ground. And she said it was wiggly and mangy and stanky and gritty. And
that goes against the saying.
She uses all these words, and I'm sure it was not funny, Eliza. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because you wrestled a fox, lady.
I'm hoping that she doesn't have rabies?
Yeah, so they've tested her for rabies, and we haven't heard back yet. But who would have thought you'd be attacked by a fox? Where we live, foxes are common. And I wouldn't say as common as coyotes, but they're common. And even coyotes are larger than fox, and they are not, they're skittish.
Yeah, coyotes won't come near you.
And fox, generally, if you catch a glimpse of one, it's fleeting because they are on their way to somewhere else. They don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So the fact that this fox like sized her up.
And foxes are not big.
No, and jumped on her, and it was wriggly and
now,
mangy.
Granted, the foxes around here are kit foxes, and they're quite a bit smaller than, say, a fox up there in the woodlands. But still, that's a tiny animal.
Yeah. So
I mean, you would need 4 of them to make a nice glove.
And it bit her and scratched her.
I'm hoping that.
Imagine a mangy feral cat like sizing you up, and you know how they like wiggle their butts in there before they pounce. Imagine the fear that thing would weld as it like attacked you. I would be just terrified.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's crazy.
We're with you, Eliza Ruth. And
Eliza Ruth.
If any
I love
foxes
the name.
are listening,
I love the throwback name too.
It's hilarious to me that she found a pot and she stuffed this squirmy thing into a pot and waited for 911 to get there. But she was clearly terrified. She was in tears on the 911 call.
All right.
Terrible.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring a little Florida man.
No, we miss you, Florida man. We understand you're in quarantine, but we're so excited to see the ad hoc craziness that you bring as soon as you're released.
On April 28th, Florida man claims gun found in car belonged to his cousin, John Wick.
That's the first name he could think of. What's your cousin's name? John. John what? He thinks back to the movie he watched, John Wick.
So,
and he looks exactly like he could be a relative of John Wick.
Yeah.
For those of you who
if
can't see the screen,
if you're just listening, this is an African American gentleman.
John Wick is not. Okay. Anyway.
Getro Gellin 27.
It's Jethro.
Yellin.
He looks Cuban.
Sure.
Okay.
27 of Port St. Lucie. Lucia.
Uh-huh.
That is not how you spell Lucia.
Okay. Same.
Okay. Cops confronted him at his home Sunday after a woman told police he shoved her to the ground and threatened her with a firearm. Now, I don't know what he was throwing ladies to the ground for, but we'll read on. The woman told authorities that Jellin may have stashed the weapon in his Porsche SUV, according to the report.
Maybe he is John Wick's cousin.
Yeah.
Or brother? Did he say brother or cousin? Okay, cousin.
Cops searched the vehicle and found a Glock 21 pistol, a semi-automatic rifle, and a bulletproof vest. The cops asked him to explain, and he said that the SUV wasn't even his anymore. He had sold it to his cousin, John Wick. He later admitted the John Wick reference was a lie, but he would not reveal his cousin's name. He was arrested.
Because John Wick is not an actual person. He's a fictitious character.
Potato.
These belong to Thor. He's my distant relative.
So he was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and domestic battery, according to the report.
Oh. John Wick.
Oh.
You've got, if we're going to use fictitious characters, don't use John Doe. Don't use a well-known fictitious character. Don't, make claims. Stop it.
It makes you wonder if the lady was his girlfriend or a significant other in some way.
Yeah, perhaps a little.
But he ended up with the domestic violence charge. So
There's
Must
never
be.
a reason for that. And
No, there's not.
geez.
I mean, unless, of course, your cousin John Wick.
Okay, fine. If that's true.
All right. Well, so enjoy the show with Heather. She's a lovely human being.
Yeah.
And we will, start that now. Yep, now. All right. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
We are,
Thank you.
we're with Heather Stewart. Heather, say hi.
Hello, hello.
Okay. So Heather is Heather does a lot of things, but the thing that Betsy and I have attended was hypnotic regressive past life therapy, right? Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah, past life regression.
Past life regression. And we both did it. Betsy had a pretty awesome experience. My experience was awesome, but I was a cockroach in a past life and it came through as nothing. Maybe I was just star stuff. Anyways, we did a recording with her once before, and it sounded really rough. This is about probably
It's been over
almost
a year.
exactly a year and a couple months ago. It would have been like last
Wow.
March or February. But so we want to have her back, and this time it'll be a usable recording because I have learned a few skills.
So tell us about yourself, Heather. Tell us about your childhood, kind of how you were brought up, your theology then, maybe your theology now, maybe they're the same.
Yeah, and you also experienced some medium experience as well, correct? Like,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have, throughout my life a bit. I wouldn't like go so far to like claim I'm psychic or anything like that. But yeah,
okay.
I think, that veil's pretty thin there.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? How did you first know, or what was your first experience?
So I grew up, until I was 7, I lived in Utah, and then from then on, my dad got transferred, and so I basically grew up in Georgia. I mean, that's what I would call like my childhood, or my growing up years were in the South. And I think, I always kind of just felt maybe a little bit different than some of my friends, or felt like I noticed things a little bit different, or felt like people were, around. I remember when I was real little, I was out by the horse pasture behind our house, and I was just kind of talking to a girl next to me, and I just at some point had the realization like she wasn't maybe like a normal girl, and it wasn't scary or anything. It was just like, and maybe that's what a lot of kids, maybe that's what imaginary friends are for a lot of kids, because we don't have all the mental blocks at that point of like, this person shouldn't be here, or they're not real. No one's told us like that would be crazy to see, and I think, just in even having my own kids and seeing some of their leanings towards some spiritual things, I think there might be something really big to like imaginary friends, that is just where that line's really thin, and where you're still aware of that we kind of float between energies and between dimensions, and you just haven't been told it's weird or wrong yet. And so you just accept it, and that's what it is. And so
what was that?
I think
that movie in the 90s about the imaginary friend? Looked like Carrot Top.
I don't think imaginary friends are that bad.
Well, yeah, I'm saying he was a being.
Yeah, I remember, but yeah, he was naughty. What was that called? He got that kid in a lot of trouble.
Yes, he did. That would have been me as the imaginary friend.
So did you tell your parents about it when you had this first?
No, I told my sister. My sister's always been like super supportive, and just, and we're really close. We're only like 17 months apart. And so, you know, I mean, I think she was just kind of like, okay, you know, but she's always known, you know, she'll always come to me with different things like through our life and be like,
So beyond
hey, so I know you love this.
beyond that, did you hear or like learn anything growing up from what you would consider possibly spirit?
You know, I mean, I think we hear things all the time, right? And we hear little whisperings, we hear warnings. Maybe not. I do.
Why does everyone look at
So maybe, yeah, maybe that makes me the weird one. But you know, I think we have those like gentle murmurings. I think we hear things. I think we get warned for things. I think, and you could call it, you know, people love to put like a label on something that makes it physical and makes it okay and whatever. So you could call it just like your, you know, your gut feeling, or you could call it, you know, whatever, I guess whatever you wanted. But
your conscience?
to me, I think I've just, yeah, to me, I think I've just always been aware. It's just like outside help, like angels, like spirits. I've always felt like I was protected with angels around me and spirits, and been really grateful for that connection. Even as a little girl, you know, I spent a lot of time thinking and it would be meditating, but I didn't know that's what it was, you know, just a lot of quiet time to myself and outside and wandering around and in my thoughts and in this magical, you know, head of mine. I mean, I think my parents were always like, oh, you're so whimsical, you know, but
Now you said your kids
that's just kind of who I was.
spiritual experiences. Do they have kind of the same interaction with I don't know, other dimensions or other planes as you do?
You know, yeah, I think it's definitely there. Both my two youngest daughters both have had experiences. My daughter that's almost 14 has always been like really aware of feelings. She's a definite empath. She takes on other people's feelings. It can shake her whole day. She can break down into tears and not know why. And she just feels people, just their energy immediately. And it's pretty cool to watch. But she also sees, you know, there's a couple spirits she sees all the time. And
So maybe, do you think maybe it's a genetic thing?
Or do you think
I think it's either that, or I think there's always been space to know that that's okay. Even from when they're really little. My youngest, when she was 2 and 3, would come and tell me all the time about the dad and the 2 daughters that lived in our house with us, you know, and she'd be like, yeah, they were fixing my light last night, like 2 a.m. And she was like 3, you know, and we would like leave our house and she'd wave at like a window and I'd be like, what are you doing? And she'd be like, I'm just saying bye to them. We'll be back. I'm like, okay, awesome. Tell them bye for me.
So were you raised with a religion?
Yes, I was raised LDS.
And how does those two match up? What you know and what you were taught. Do they coincide?
You know, I think probably the thinking on it has probably come a long way since I was little. But I would say no. I think, I mean, it's different now, right? Because I think we have so much more information about like intuition and accepting that you like angels are with you. And I think that's a lot more accepted in the circles of different religions now. But I think I remember being like dumbfounded that like when I learned, it must have been around 16 or 17 that I learned that you shouldn't like go see a medium or a psychic, like that was kind of like almost considered false prophecy or and I remember thinking, why? Like it's clearly a communication with like your angels. Why would that be? Or with the other side, like why wouldn't that be encouraged? Like shouldn't we all have help where we can, that the universe or God or whatever you want to call it gives us and inspires us with? Like I remember thinking that's the silliest thing I've ever heard when I heard that. And then at that point realizing like I'm kind of an outcast here.
Yeah.
And that was shocking for me, because I just never really considered that everyone didn't, believe in talking to
It was
spirits or hearing.
just so normal for you.
Yeah. So I remember feeling that was very, I don't know. It was kind of like a mind blowing moment for me to be like, are you serious? That's a thing. We're not supposed to do that. What? It was weird. So
How did you get into regressive therapy? That seems to me like a master's degree almost. Like, okay, I do mediumship, I see things, hear things, but regressive therapy seems to me like very in depth. How did you make
so I think it was just kind of a really natural progression for me over a course of years. It started with me being interested in just helping people with like meditation and quieting their mind. And I mean, I think even through like most of my jobs that I've been drawn to have been where people can just like quiet their minds and just talk and get things out, and we can work through things. And I can, and like my daughter too, I feel pretty strongly people's like energy and presence. And so like when they come in for, lashes or whatever and lay down on my table for 2 hours and shut their eyes, I can generally pick up pretty quick on their energy right as they're coming in. And so I kind of know where to sit myself in that energy. And I ask, I ask for guidance usually. And luckily most of my clients are really open to it, and they'll come in and they'll be like, just, do your thing. Like whatever I need, let's do that. Like I'm open to it. I'm giving, my guide permission to work with yours, like whatever.
You do a therapy and lashes session, like a combination.
it's a twofer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it became a lot stronger when I got certified in Reiki and then started doing that. But then the interesting thing that happens with Reiki, and anyone who, practices Reiki knows this, that your hands heat up, to like they're very hot. And so it's so interesting. Like if that,
like,
your palms, your hands.
I've never seen Reiki done. Isn't that like focused energy over the body and the little colored spots on the poster, right?
Your chakras, yeah.
Yeah, the chakra.
Yeah.
And
So it's just helping move that energy through you and out, and wherever, whatever's stuck can move through. It's releasing emotional bonds. It's cutting cords, like spiritual cords to things you're hanging on to. And, but your hands get really hot because the way that I was taught that you go about it is, I sit in my, meditation before I begin a session with anyone, and, just call in whoever needs to be there, their supportive angels and spirit guides and mine, and ask them if they can work together. And then I just open myself up to being just a conduit, just a vessel for that energy. And I have no part in it. It's nothing I'm doing. I'm not, I don't have magic hands. I'm not, people get really caught up in that. They're like, oh, you think you're a healer. I'm not. I'm just a conduit. And that's what this is for all of these, I believe strongly, that you're just the tool for it to get here. You're just an open tool. So
are you exhausted after Reiki healings? Does it take from you to do
this is interesting, because if you haven't prepared yourself well enough to center yourself in your own energy, and if you get too much in your head, like I can tell immediately if I'm too far in my head, my hands will start to cool down during it. My hand, or if I start thinking logically in my head, like, oh, I need to go to this area and focus on that area, my hands will start to cool down. I just have to I have to shut down my physical mind enough to know that I need to let my body move where it feels like the most heat or the most pull. And so it's tricky. So if I'm in my head too much, I would say like at the beginning, I was really in my head because I was like, you want to make sure that they are healing and that they're getting what and you have to get out of your own way, or it's just, it doesn't do what it could possibly do for them.
So talk to me about, for the sake of listeners who are not familiar with Reiki healing, what is it? What are the chakras, and how do we get to a place where Reiki healing would be something that we would benefit from?
So, I mean, anyone can benefit from Reiki. First of all, I mean, it truly is just energy, and here's where I think a lot of people get caught up. Like, you don't necessarily need to go to someone to be healed with Reiki. You know what I mean? Like, you can get in your own spot and your own meditation, and there's so many available online, and there's, meditations you can put in your ears and listen to and work through. Reiki can be wonderful if you want to move into that tool. It's just like anything else, right? But you don't have to. I don't like that people get caught up in thinking they need someone to heal them or help heal them, because the energy's here and it's available for everyone. And sometimes people just feel more comfortable thinking like, well, I don't know how to do it, and I don't want to do it, and or I'll do it wrong or whatever. And you really can't do it wrong, because it's energy and it's all the intention set with it. And so, our souls are so powerful. We can heal ourselves. We can help move things out for ourselves. We can cut those, spiritual cords that are tying us to something that's affecting us negatively in our life ourselves. And I know this goes against like what I do. So like what I'm saying is like, you don't need me, but you really don't. Like, I love that I get to be part of that for some people, and that I get to be, I feel honored to share in that vulnerability.
Let me put it for the guys. You can mow your lawn with your hands, but a lawnmower helps.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I had an interesting, I was in a really terrible car accident, and I was suffering from quite a few things. Vertigo was one of them. And the physical therapist that I went and saw did some Reiki healing on me at the same time, which I was like, I had never heard of.
Are we talking about the same physical therapist that ventures in and out of all the fun stories of our lives?
Yes, same one. He while I was, at one of my normal appointments, he said, I also do Reiki healing, and I don't know if you understand the power of it, but can I walk you through a couple of exercises? I was like, sure. So he walked me through a couple of exercises and did some Reiki healing. And I have to say, it was pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Like it really was, even though I really didn't know much about it. But
he's a great guy, and he's done a few
exercises. I would
say procedures on me as well, but not Reiki.
Yes. Yeah. So
what does that look like, Jared?
That you have to listen to the story. We'll just have to.
Okay, I'll tell it real quick. Now, this is a different me that it was done to. The me now is kind of thinking there's more to it.
Mm-hmm.
He did an exorcism, and he did a removal of an alien implant on me. So those, I'll have to, have we told these stories on the show before?
I don't believe we have.
Well, right now I want to.
It feels like a major miss that you haven't shared this story.
I want to have him on. I need to reach out to him and have him on. But I don't want to out him if it's not something he doesn't want out.
Right.
This guy, he has traveled the world studying this stuff. Mm-hmm. He really has. He spent months in Africa learning shamanism. He's done a lot of interesting stuff.
Like he enveloped himself into spirituality, and from all walks of life. I mean, he took the opportunity to literally move into a mud hut for months at a time and practice these different types of rituals and things. So he's an interesting guy. We should
Yeah.
see if he would want to go on, but
Yeah.
it kind of goes against the licensing board if you're practicing these things.
Right.
Because he's also a professional and, you know, is licensed. So
Okay. Very cool.
tell us about,
Well,
because I think people question.
I got a real quick question. Now, after your and my session, you said, okay, drink lots of water and you're going to be exhausted afterwards. Does that drain you also to do
yeah, I don't plan ever anything else in my day.
I felt fine after. I felt
that's amazing.
Lighter. I skipped out to the truck and
yeah.
I can't remember where I went.
And you know that it's not so much that it's draining. I think it just takes me a while to recenter and ground myself. And I know that. And so the lighter feeling, yeah, you do. You're floaty for a little while, right? You're up there because that's where you've been. I mean, you've really taken yourself out of your physical limitations and gone into where your subconscious, remembers and knows your soul and works through things. And so you leave with a very flighty feeling. And so if you've never really had that before, it can feel euphoric. It can feel great. It can feel, but the key is you can't stay there because it doesn't work for the physical plane. You know what I mean? You wouldn't function well here if you tried to remain at that frequency all the time. So you gotta bring it back together. And meditation's beautiful because the point of meditation is to bring you up into that frequency where your soul can speak to you and heal, and you can have conversations with your angels or with your spirit guides or just be inspired to hear or feel something, a pressing question in your life or a pressing health issue for you or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing, but we just spend so long when we're in a regression, we spend so long up there that it takes a while to get grounded, which is, one of the reasons I was drink a lot of water, but you need to eat something grounding.
Yeah.
Just to kind of help bring your physical body back down, something a little heavier.
I was exhausted.
I felt
I
fine.
probably slept for 4 hours.
But I have to say that you have, I went into all of that with no, a year ago or a year and a half ago, I had no belief in afterlife, spirituality, any of that. And I would say that experience with you and then continual experiences haven't, made me a religious zealot or anything, but it has changed my thought processes on that.
Yeah, it was an interesting shift watching Jared, because really, you're here in your dirt is kind of where he started. And there's been a shift for sure. So talk to our listeners about the soul. Talk to them. What does a soul do?
Yeah, this is rough. We had a conversation a year ago with you, and that's not out, and we want to kind of cover that again. So we may be skipping stuff, and I'm trying to check myself for doing that. But you talked about you've got your life here that obviously if you're listening to this or a part of it, you're a part of that life here. But then there's other places on the other side that you will experience the between worlds and those places.
Okay.
Let's cover that. Okay.
So through my experiences with, people that I have regressed and through my own experience of having my own regressions, it looks like we've, our soul has had, many memories, many lives. I mean, and as just kind of a side note before we get into that, I want to say it doesn't really matter what your religious beliefs are, if you believe in past lives or if you believe in reincarnation or whatever, for something like past life regression to be a healing medium for you, or for anyone, all you have to do is recognize that your soul is immense and ongoing, and that it knows everything, or it has keys stored in it, deep in your subconscious, that you have to know that you can provide yourself your own answers to your own limitations and problems. And it's just buried. And so it doesn't really, like, if you need to look at it like your mind made up a story for you to be able to get some answers that you need, or some healing that you need, because your religion doesn't allow you to look at past lives as an option for you, or reincarnation for you. It doesn't really matter what you believe. You just have to be open enough to know that the answers can be given and that they are within you. And I think sometimes removing that block for people, because obviously living in Utah, we have a lot of people that, you know, are really committed to different religions. And I think, you know, anything with like past lives gets really scary for them. But your soul is all knowing. And if you believe in a God or a universe, or, you know, anything like that, then you know that those answers, that we are all connected through that, right? Whether you believe you're like a son and daughter of God, or whether you believe that we're just all energetically connected. I mean, we know we're energy. It's scientifically been shown that we all function with energy. And so I just want to put that out there, that you don't have to believe that you're reincarnated or a past life. You can, you know, you can just go into it knowing that there are those answers within you, and that you'll find them. And so whether it's your mind creating a situation where you can see the answer, and it's not even actually your mind, right? Because we go into a regressive state. So it's not your conscious mind. It's what's deep within your subconscious and deep within your own soul's knowing and remembering. And so I think it's important for people to recognize, like, you don't have to go totally against what you believe to still experience healing from this modality. Does that make sense? Okay. So now back to the question. So what it looks like is that we have incarnated, you know, if we're going to use that as the model, we've incarnated several different times and had many, many different lives and experienced many, many different things. And it's really beautiful to see people go into a regression and to pull up these, you know, deep rooted memories that their soul remembers, because everything's within your soul. It remembers everything. It's all right there for you. And so it's, you know, a lot of our like physical elements that we have in our life now can be related to something that you're hanging on to or carrying over with you from that space of a different life or experience. And it can be so healing to be able to go back through that and view it from almost like a third party view. And sometimes you feel it right within you, but then if that's too heavy, then, you know, your therapist can help walk you out of that and help you stand aside so you can see it as a third party view and see what happened. And then it's like something just clicks in your mind and in your body, and it releases what you were hanging on to because you remember it and you can see it and view it from a different point. And in that space where we're just really dealing with your subconscious, you're able to release those feelings that you hang on to and carry with you here, or, you know, pain or whatever, because you know the lesson in that moment, and the lesson becomes apparent, or what you needed to hear or learn becomes apparent, and so you don't have to carry it anymore. So it's really cool to watch people experience that and have actual like physical ailments begin to leave them, or like the heaviness of grief. I mean, I think, you know, I don't know what you want to share, Betsy, but, you know, I think we dealt with some elements of grief for you, and it was really beautiful to watch that process for you. So, you know, so we can go through all that. And then if you want to go, you know, further, and some people even make this jump just anyway. And I think it kind of depends on how open you are to things, how spiritually inclined you are, how easy it is to get into, you know, a spot where you can move through these different dimensions, and your soul can be open to that. And we go to, life in between lives. And so life between lives is pretty beautiful. It's a space of healing. It's a space of restoration. It's a space of whatever your soul's journey is that you usually go back and work on, with your soul groups, people you remember, working on things with. Like, I don't know, what were you working on? When, people will get back there and in a regression or whatever, and they'll be like, oh my heck, we totally, I've forgotten about this for, the past 70 years, but yeah, I love creating, this animal that we're working on, or, so it's pretty cool, and they're excited, and you can see it. It's really neat to see someone who's laying there and still and calm and in in an alpha or theta state, and they're really, you can feel the energy of their soul remembering these things, and connecting with them again, and seeing people that are in your life now that you recognize are part of your soul group. And that's beautiful for them to be like, oh my gosh, we've been soulmates here. And even in past lives, sometimes, usually there will be some people who are in your life right now who are either a sibling or a spouse or a brother or a sister or parent, or someone who's really close to you, or even like a total antagonist for you, like that will show up in your past lives. And maybe in that life you were an antagonist to them. And so, there's a way that the karmic will works, but it's not in a scary way. It's in a, we agreed to learn in our life between lives what we need to learn to progress to the next stage of what we are working on in our life between lives. So for ultimately, for what we want to be as a soul. And so it's kind of like, you can look at each life almost like the next grade in school.
Yeah. Like what I'm understanding from this book I'm trudging through is that you come down to live, but there's also a purpose to learn to get over, say there's a fear you have, or there's a space for compassion you need to learn, or something like that they're born to practice at. And sometimes it sounds like it might be they need to have a negative experience in life to learn something, maybe humility or something like that. So that's
So you mentioned soul groups, and one thing, just to share a little bit about my session, I remember you asking me to describe myself. And for those of you who have not done this, I tell this to every single person who asks me about it. I say, listen, every single solitary living person needs to have this done at least once, just to experience it, because it was so profound for me. I would not suggest that about anything else I've ever done. I would never say everyone needs to have their cards read, everyone needs to swim here or whatever. But I think it was so profound for me. But one thing you said to me, and I still remember this, you asked me to describe myself, and I was like hung up, like, I am a guy. And I remember you being so calm and saying, soul has no gender. What? That to me was like, but I just kept saying, no, but I'm telling you, like, my hands are like a guy's hands. And you're like, soul has no gender. Soul has no gender. And that was pretty profound to me. So talk to us about soul groups. When you say soul groups, these are like groups of people that have, or groups of souls that have agreed to do these different lifetimes with you, or these different experiences. And are we as souls only able to be here or there? Or, I mean, are we really that boundless of energy that we can be here and in other dimensions and there all at the same time?
So are you asking if the aliens that kidnap you and
Yeah, like
want
are they
to
a part of my soul
want
group?
to test my Kegel foo?
But I mean, it's our souls bound to either be here within this physical body or there, or can they be both places?
Yeah. So yeah, your soul group, that's exactly it. It's the people that the souls that you have joined forces with, and maybe it's that you're both on the same path to be the same creator of whatever in the life between lives. Or to be, to work towards being someone's spirit guide, or to work towards being an angel in whatever realm that looks like for you. But they're your like core group of people. It would be like your tight knit family. And you're assigned different parts to help each other progress and become what you can become in each life. And it doesn't mean that they all come back, that you all come back together. You may do a life without someone who is your soulmate, that has played that role for you for several lifetimes. You may be here without that person at any given time. But the goal is to push each other and to recognize each other, and you both agree to come here and play that part for each other and lift each other up and push each other into that beautiful thing, which always ends in like a recognition of love for your own self and for everyone else. Now we're human right here, so it doesn't always work out. You can get back there and you'd be like, okay, you didn't do your thing. Like, you were supposed to come around, you didn't do it. Like, remember, I was supposed to help you with, whatever this problem was, and you were supposed to get over the jealousy, and you didn't do it, you left, and we were supposed to be soulmates, and we were supposed to get it this time, and it's funny to hear people go through, regressions, and they're like, oh my gosh, my sister is my husband in this life. And of course it's my soulmate. Of course it is. I'm so close with my sister. And, of course it's my husband this time, because he's pushing me into this spot that I don't want to look at, that I need to shine a light on for me to grow and develop as a soul and as a human and as an ever loving being, and so it's pretty cool, the parts we play with each other. To speak to, are you just only here, or are we that boundless? It looks like, from my experiences and from what I've learned, it looks like we are boundless. Generally there's a certain percentage of your soul, so to speak, that comes down and can function in the lifetime that you decided that you accepted you're going to do and what you need. And part of your soul always stays there. And so it stays in life between lives. And that can be looked at like that's how you get that inner intuition of, part of you is still tied there. It's almost like the very thinnest cord of love and life and direction and intuition, to help you along your journey here, to help you remember, to help you have that spark, and there's quite a few regressions where people will be like, well, we agreed before, my soulmate and I agreed before we came down, that there would be a look, and I would remember, how blue his eyes were in the sunlight, the way it was shining on me. And that'll be our sign that we're supposed to meet. And you'll look at me across there, and they play it out before you come down. So it's like a remember thing in your soul. Now the trick is, are we out of our own ways? Are we enough to remember that sign when we get it? Do we take it? Those gut things where you're like, where you see someone and you're like, have we met? Have we, or where you instantly feel connected to someone?
What an interesting paradigm, though, to imagine that something I may be doing inadvertently could be keeping someone else, because I still have, the freedom to make choices here, could be keeping someone else from fulfilling what they came here to do.
Or you're helping them fulfill.
Or helping without remembering. So what about dimensions? Do you believe in alternate dimensions? Because I think that's another interesting subject for me that I just can't manage to wrap my feeble brain around. Like, are there other existences carrying on just beyond what we can comprehend? And is this all a simulation? Am I really here?
Like Truman Show.
Yes. Or is this literally just, I've created this conscious world and Jared agrees on it, so it is.
Yeah. Man, isn't that the $1 million question?
Yeah. This table feels pretty physical, but I've been told that it's, hard and I don't know. So
yeah. And the tough thing is, I don't think while we are present, totally present in our physical mind, that we can wrap our heads around exactly what is and what isn't. I think we accept the physical limitations of the world. We accepted that when we came here, when we took on a body. I think part of the body is to help us accept that. It's maybe almost like a thin veil, just slightly pulled over, but where there's still the availability in our soul to remember and reach out and feel those really like amazing spiritual esoteric moments in our life. So, I don't know. I mean, is it a simulation? I think partly. I think that's what we agreed to. I think we a little bit agreed to having some blinders on when we're here in our physical body, because your job as your soul is to work with your physical mind and have your soul remembering and your moments, your beautiful spiritual intuitive moments, to lift you out of that space and that limitation and remember what your soul's journey is and find that and grasp it and light up with it and do the things you wanted to do when you came to this life. So I mean, is that just totally jumbled? I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place with that, but that's kind of how I view it. I mean, partly simulation, like I think sort of, if you look at it that way, but ultimately it's all real and we're here. And as far as other dimensions go, I mean, are we talking like other species? Is that where you are with that?
Just, I have these flashes of my son living a different life right now.
Well, you're talking about the paradox where every decision sprouts another.
No, not necessarily the butterfly effect or anything like that, but it feels to me very much like I have dreams about it. I literally see him places doing things with this little boy. And it's the strangest thing. Is it just beyond, are the people who have passed or the people who are part of our soul group going on and doing other things just beyond what we can understand or what we can see?
I believe yes.
Or is it just, this is it? You live, you die, you go back, we all kind of reconvene, and then we all come down again.
Or you're
sorry, go ahead.
45 years ago and coughed down onto Earth, and they missed the timeline. I was supposed to be inside a Neanderthal, but they put me now.
But see, then that would suggest mistakes, and this all seems very intentional. So
it appears to be very intentional from the work I've done and from going through regressions with people. It does appear to be quite intentional, but I am going to say yes to. I do believe that there are other dimensions that are just right outside what we can grasp, and again, that goes back to almost that human shield that we have on here that keeps us in. I mean, this is our physical barrier to kind of keep this boundless soul somewhere bound for a minute, and there have to be rules with that too, for it all to work, for us to experience the emotions and physical elements that come with it, because we don't have that as a soul. We're great and expansive, and we understand learning and love on such a bigger level than we give ourselves credit for, but we let our physical mind get in our way, and we don't have to deal with that when we are just in our soul being. There isn't that limitation. There isn't the, I don't know, there isn't the understanding of jealousy or rage or it's just an understanding. It's just unspoken and like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know, and laughter's a real thing with souls. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of regression, is when there's that joyful reunion of when someone first goes into life between lives, and all of a sudden there's this laughter, and it's melody, and it's a vibration, you know, and so everything functions on vibration and sound. And, you know, it's why we do, like, when we meditate, like, you know, like we're calling in a vibration there. And that's how the spirit world seems to work in my experience, in my own regressions, and then in people that I've regressed, and then also, you know, the studies along the way. So
in a part of mine that I totally forgot about this, I remember telling you that there was a fence, but this fence was made of noise. And then I remember him instantly thinking, she's going to have me come, because I just told her that I can see this fence, but this fence is not a physical fence. This fence is made of noise.
Yeah, it's mumble rap.
And
Just can't
I
go
could
beyond it.
see the fence, and I could see that it was actually made of noise, like vibration. And I, to this day, I remember thinking, I mean, if I even think about that, I think, oh, that poor woman had to sit through the whole thing. It was so weird to me to even be like, okay, there's a fence here, but it's not made of like wood. It's made of noise. Does that make sense? It's made of noise. I can't get through it because it's noise.
and I love that. I loved that you had that moment.
My thoughts is that this procedure needs to be done as young as possible. I think if the goal is to aid people in achieving their goals, then you want to do it as young as possible. You want to probably start out teaching them meditation when they're a teenager, or maybe even before. I don't know if you could.
I mean,
a toddler meditation. I want you to try on yours. And
I will. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, you want to start this, and then you want to continually work it, but as young as possible. Like right now, me, whatever hangups I have, I'm 45 years old. I'm not going to correct them to a broadening effect. I mean, I'm on the downhill ride of this. But had this been something I worked on in my teens or 20s, I could have changed things.
But then that go against the whole reason we're here.
Yeah. Well, so here's what I will say. With all of my kids, and maybe just because it came naturally and innately to me, I have taught all of them like the power of meditation. But even as little kids, it's that we just lay together and close our eyes and listen to music and breathe. They follow my breath, and it just teaches them that there is that space they can go to. And now they're all really quite good at it. Oh no, my phone's saying low power mode. I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to rig it to stand up still with the cord in the bottom.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I think that, you know, if we, I think you can teach those practices really early. And I think, Jared, what you said is right. Like, it does seem like you would want to do this like as soon as possible or whatever. But I will tell you that in my experience, for whatever reason, until a soul knows that in your physical state here in this lifetime, you are ready to have these doors open for you or answers given, things in the universe will stop that meeting until it's right. So you may be curious about it and interested, but there will be things that block it.
Okay,
block your awakening.
What do you mean? What stop that meeting?
Okay. So say like a meeting, like meeting your spirit guide, or if you're really wanting to reconnect with your, you know, past grandfather who you were so close to, or just especially like past life regressions. if your soul doesn't feel that your physical state of mind and body can embrace this and handle it, it will not give you more than what you can handle at the time. Does that make sense? So it will shut it down for you. And some people just need little doors cracked along the way until it can open up. And I've seen that, you know, with several people where we've done a few different regressions and we're just getting a little further each time until your head, your like physical, mental mind has wrapped around the idea that we can be open to this and it's safe. Because your soul's job is to make sure that you stay safe mentally, physically, emotionally. Like it wants this beautiful, you know, human body that we get to use and walk around in this life. It needs to keep that safe. And so you're going to fight with your mental mind and your ego, because your ego doesn't know the difference between actual fear and something that will hurt you. They're the same in your ego's mind. Yeah, your ego fights for both. So that's why when we get fearful about something or we're unsure about something, our body and our mental mind and ego recognize that as, this is truly something I shouldn't do, and this is fearful and I don't want to do it and I'm not doing it, and it shuts it down. It's the same system that we use for, you really are going to get hit by that car if you run into the middle of the street right now. But our ego and our physical mind block us in those moments of growth, and it initiates like fear and it shuts people down. And so if we can start, if you can start to have that door opened for you and your mind open for you, this is a safe spot to go into because it's just part of who you are anyway. It's already all within you. You just have to be open to what comes. Then we can start to close out that ego mind that says, this is scary, this is fearful, I don't believe this is going to hurt me. But your soul won't let you do that fully until you can get to a place where it feels safe for you. And where you can be vulnerable enough.
I think your kids' souls are extremely lucky to have a mother that, one, taught them to slow their mind down when they're little. I couldn't imagine trying to slow my son down.
Especially
Sorry, I'm trying to get this.
Today's day and age, everything is right at your fingertips, fast as lightning.
Entertainment.
It's an overload on our poor little kids' minds. The ability to just sit with themselves where they're at is huge.
Well,
that's huge.
Yeah,
maybe that's what your book should be about. Like,
yeah.
How to
honestly,
like a new mother's book for spirituality and
for just opening that space, just giving them that space. So I have a question, because I guess my question in a nutshell is, what's the end game? Because if our souls are young, and then our souls learn, and then they go back, and then they learn, and then they go back, and then what's the end game? Do souls expire eventually? So
no, it's endless. It's an endless energy. It's boundless with no timeline. You have to remember also, this is something that is usually shocking for people when they get into life between lives. Time is not time. And it's a moment we've put on ourselves. And I mean, you can go into like the whole philosophies of like Einstein time, right? And bending time and whatever. And you can get to a place where you can kind of manipulate time here, even in this physical world, if you're really conscious about it and deliberate about it. But it's a totally different experience. I mean, I think both of y'all probably know, like when you're in a regression, you could be 3 and 4 hours into it. Does it feel like you've been there 3 and 4 hours?
Mine was 3 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally, I remember thinking, okay, that wasn't very long. That it's over. And then the recording was hours.
Yeah, I walked in telling jokes, walked out telling jokes, and there was a long time in between.
Yeah. So are we as souls doing all of this to become spirit guides, to become, and then what after that? Because
So
eventually there has to be new souls, right? Like brand new souls, and where do those come from? And I have so many questions.
yeah. So I mean, and this is all the stuff to investigate, right? Like this is why the ongoing learning is so valuable, of like continuing your education and continuing to go to like seminars and things like that. But and truly, like, you can read and you can learn and you can hear, but truly, until I like experience something with someone in our own space, I have a hard time saying like, well, that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? But once I've seen it a time or two or three, then I'm like, okay, that's pretty consistent. Or, or if especially if it's something that I've experienced in my own regressions that I've had done, and then someone else says the same thing, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, and you trust everything, right? Because there's no guarantee that, I mean, it's their experience. No, anyway, you cut it, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, nothing's too crazy. Nothing's too weird. Things sometimes, I think we talked about this last time, but things become things that you aren't expecting to become things. I mean, people be so weird about being like, oh, I don't want to tell you, it's like a flying octopus, and then you're like, okay, let's just go closer.
I still have the little octopus on the wall. Here's a question. Okay, so this is one that just come to me. It's going to sound weird at first, but follow me down the path. So you've got the Bikram guy that does the yoga, right?
Uh-huh.
And granted, I think yoga is a good thing, but he is obviously a very flawed human when it comes to how he interacts with people of the opposite sex. There are a lot of claims of assault, and not just that. Let's say the assault's out the window, but the way he seems to use his mysterious yoga as a means to
cause harm,
to use women as sexual objects. That's questionable to me. But my question on that is he's come down with a lot of the same spirituality. Was his goal to come down and be a wildebeest that he is, or is he going to go back and be shocked when he says, my goal was to come down and spread this goodness, but instead I just did all these unconscionable things to women that for lack of a better word, I got to join my cult.
Oh, that's a very good.
So
there's lots of people that do lots of bad things. Is that in the contract?
So there's kind of two schools of thought on that. So it's either that, yes, it is in their contract to come down and teach people to use their own wisdom and inner guidance system, and to rely on their souls telling them what is right and what is wrong. We have the agency here, and to not get caught up in following a guru. We are each such powerful individual souls that all work together through love, that it's a really important lesson, I think, in every lifetime. And you'll see it through every lifetime. I mean, you can even see it through just history, right? There's always a guru that can lead for the good, and there's always a guru that can lead for the bad, and then there's a million in between those. And so our job here is to be really clear on listening to our own internal gut, not getting caught up in being taken down a path that doesn't feel right, or doesn't feel wholesome, or doesn't feel like it's centered in love. That, I think, is one of the key things that we are supposed to do as souls in every single lifetime, is to be able to, use our mind that we've been given here in the physical world, but also rely heavily on like our internal guidance system. And so you can,
is there reflection on your life afterwards? Like when you first died, do you sit and go, like, is Jeffrey Dahmer going to do one of these? Oh, I did. Oh, sir.
I mean, chances are excellent. Yeah.
Is Bikram going to go, oh, sweet Jesus? You
So,
know, is
It seems to be that way. It seems like someone, if I've taken someone through a past life where they really did something heinous, and then we move towards letting that go and going to their life between lives, there is the reflective moment of healing that takes place, usually before you even rejoin your soul family. It's just an understood. It's almost like, so people talk a lot about heaven and hell, right? And what I've come to understand with the regression therapy, at least what rings true to me and seems to reoccur, is that there is not like a heaven and a hell. It's just a personal like hell we put ourselves in, but it's not even that. It's still a loving space. It's a space of aloneness, but with also a guide that is there to support you through whatever happened and the choices you made that were not centered in love. And we all make tons of choices that aren't centered in love, right, through our life. I mean, that's just human nature, and we're all just trying to navigate it. But like really, really serious things, right? Then you go into kind of this isolation space until you can come back into your soul. It's almost like you have to meet back up where that love is waiting for you and let go of what you learned. And then you will probably you'll probably play a part in a future life where you kind of take the hit for
that
some of the actions that you put on someone else.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bikram's going to be reborn as a guy they test paddles on.
Okay. I'm gonna throw some yes or no questions at you. Just quick fire.
Okay.
Demons, yes or no?
No.
Aliens, yes or no?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. So the whole demon thing brings me to another question. We know personally several people who have had near-death experiences, and they don't know one another, never met one another, but both
They
have
might have saw
told,
each other at mom's funeral.
perhaps, but they've both told previous to that these stories of these near-death experiences that had to do with addiction. So I guess my question is two-part. One, addiction. If you live in addiction here, do you take some of that residual back with you and have to deal with it there? Or are you just lifted up out of the addiction and you go right back to, kind of doing your next soul contract?
So I've seen this kind of go both ways in some of my regressions. So I think it depends on how abrupt maybe death was, like in the grasp of an addiction, say like an overdose.
Yeah.
I think there is some residual where it's the same thing. You kind of get taken into a quiet space to reconcile with your soul and kind of come back into yourself, because when you're struggling with like a major addiction, it seems to kind of close off a piece of your soul to be able to get through and talk to you. It almost hardens it, because instead of being in your soul's mind, you're kind of in another section of your physical mind, because the drug or alcohol or whatever the addiction is putting you into that space physically. Does that make sense? It's a physical reaction. It's not something that happened to your soul. It's a physical reaction. So I think it appears that there is like some shake off time of that, depending on how abrupt it is. But so here's the other school of thought on that, though. It appears that every time someone like takes their own life, they spend time there too. So
it could be either the addiction or the suicide through addiction causing the same effect.
And it may just be a regathering and honoring of that a mission got cut short.
Yeah.
Well,
that'd be if you down here with the goal of getting over a fear of needles and become an addict.
A fear of needles,
Jared.
in the soul
I
regression.
don't know. This is my first time.
So
It's so
both
funny.
of their experiences, they both related that one of them, it scared him completely straight. The other one, not even close. He's right back to kind of doing what he's
Mhm.
always done. But in both of their experiences, they both said that they saw these evil, demonic, is how they describe them. But see, that's the narrative that we humans have given it. These
Mhm.
black, dark, hollow figures swirling around them during this experience. And one of them relates that it was the turning point in his addiction, because he was so afraid that that's where he was going to end up. Is that a social construct or a narrative that we're playing out consciously? Or is that because, as you look, it's so far beyond these two individuals. There's thousands and thousands of accounts of people having these near-death experiences that have to do with some chemical or some addiction that in turn create this terrifying, not the warm, light, welcoming experience of other near-death experiences.
Mhm.
So
Go ahead.
what's your thoughts on that? That whole thing.
So I think it's more of what our physical mind is ready to accept in that next dimension. I think we create things within our physical mind still that's functioning, even in near death, right? You're leaving, your soul is leaving, but I think we've still got some space for, because you're still connected, you're still tethered because you're coming back. It's a near death.
Right.
Right? You may be leaving, but your soul is not separated from your body completely. There has to be the tethered cord that still reconnects you back into your body. So I think still have some of the physical limitations and that can change things, but I think it's also whatever your soul needs at that time is a lot of times what you're going to see first up. If your strong belief is in God looking like, or Jesus looking exactly how it's depicted on the cross, like whatever,
Blue-eyed Mormon Jesus with the big
Yeah.
beard and the muscles.
Then that's who you're going to.
Yeah, if you're committed to that physically, that will probably be the first thing you see greeting you, because it's what your subconscious and conscious mind hooked together can express, can accept. Now, if you have a major fear that you're living terribly, if your soul knows something that you aren't okay with, if you don't know where you're going and you believe it is all just blackness, and that's probably what will represent first to you also.
So maybe it's a paradigm.
Maybe maybe the soul
from what I've
you're doing bad.
Yeah.
And so it shows you that.
My phone's deciding not to charge. We'll see. I've got it plugged in. I'm holding it. Yeah, I think I think that's part of it. I mean, who knows? What I do know is that we've never stayed. No one that I've regressed has ever stayed with demons. It's like the octopus thing. It feels like this. It feels scary. It feels this. Where's the light? Let's look for the light. There's a way out. You know what I mean? So we've gone through scary things in regressions with people. We never stay in scary. Does that make sense? So to me, I think it's like a pass through of some sort. It may be a recognition of something, that you can't, I don't know, that you can't combine in your own body, mind, soul, head, that this is who you are or where you're going. Or maybe it's the only thing you feel worthy of at that moment. And then, you're also dealing with addiction. So you're dealing with, psychedelics, or your head being in a little bit different space than what it could rationally do, people have acid trips that are terrifying. People have LSD trips that are terrifying. People even have massive, scary panic attacks on just pot. So, all of our minds get affected really differently with our bodies and souls. So I think those experiences, so do I overwhelming, do I believe, you said demons, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
No. But I think things represent how we need to see them to learn and grow from them, or to get through them and push past that block in our mind.
So all souls are inherently love and kindness and good things. It's their manifestation in the human form that make, the kind of the
yeah. And then, and then you do have the stories of, and I haven't had this in regression, so I can't speak to it, but I've learned about it and heard other people talk about, that some people have the experience of that their soul just gets in a past life, and then they're invited to go to life between lives. Their soul just sort of gets stuck and they don't know where to go. They're outside of their life. They can see it, but they can't participate because they aren't physically there anymore, but they don't know where to go yet. And so I do believe that does happen until they open their mind to there's somewhere else to go. And I think that our souls generally let us do that on our own, try to figure it out, but help does come. It appears help does come eventually if we don't figure it out. Help us head back home.
That makes me wonder. Yeah. That's
interesting.
So you're saying that when you regress, or when someone has been regressed and they go to the life between lives place, that they see their soul trapped there? Or
no, it's like an in-between space. It's almost like a floating space. It's like they don't know where to go next, but they can't go back to the life they were just in because they know for sure that they've passed out of that life. They can see that life. They know they're no longer physically in that life. So we'll have taken them into a past life regression. We'll take them through their death in that life. They know they died, but they're not to life between lives yet. They're kind of in that middle ground. And it's almost like we have to help them look around and recognize where can we go to get there? You remember the path. Your soul remembers this path. You've done it before. And it could be that if this is their first time in that past life. So it was their first time finding their way back. So maybe their soul wasn't remembering and they needed a little help. That could be what happens there. I'm not exactly sure if that happens or if it's just kind of like a remembering problem. Getting out of the physical mind enough to really listen to your soul instead of longing to go back into that life that they were in. I'm not sure exactly where that hang up happens, but it does seem to happen, from time to time. It seems pretty rare, but it does seem to happen.
So you do the past life regression and you do the Reiki healing. Do you do any?
I mostly just do Reiki on my own kids and, at this point, but yeah.
Do you do anything else? Are there any other ways that you help to channel, or do you teach meditation? Do you do anything else?
I don't, not really. I mean, I guess to my kids, I guess to, friends and family. I mean, I enjoy yoga. I'm not a teacher of yoga.
It sounds like
there's a lot I don't know about yoga, but I try to, push myself and learn and grow there.
You might be doing it inadvertently. It sounds like when you
do your
when you glue spider legs on people's eyelids, that you're inadvertently you're centering them. There might be some energy movement there, but also I'm sure that's a big meditative space for them at the same time.
So what?
Yeah, I think it is.
What we want to do is let our listeners know if they want to do a past life regression. How do they get in contact with you? What's the best way? As I've said before, everyone should have this done. everyone.
Oh, I'm going to be
Without-
having it done again.
Without exception. It was, if nothing else, it opened you up to the idea that there is more, and more takes you away from that feeling of not enough. And I think we all find ourselves in a position at one point in our life that we're not enough. This isn't enough. That wasn't enough. We didn't have enough. So the idea, just the simple idea, if you take nothing away from your past life regression, but that there is more, gives you both hope and power in both your learning and just your daily life. So how would someone get in contact with you if they wanted to do a past life regression? What do you have, a web page or a way to schedule? Or
Honestly, like, I'm pretty laid back. I like to get to know who is coming a little bit before, so we break down any of those moments to any of the walls, so they can come ready to just experience it and feel relaxed. So I like to talk to the person before and kind of go through some things. I don't have like a specific website set up for it. We could maybe list like my email or even my phone number. People can just call or text or email me, and then that's I'm kind of like more personal with it. I feel like it's a really vulnerable space for people, so I want to treat it like a really
phone number just yet. Just in case.
What we can do is list on our website the email address for.
But yeah,
anyone who's
let's start
interested in
out with
this.
an email. And also for audio listeners, what is your email?
It's burninghamheather, like a pig on fire, Heather, at gmail.com.
gmail.com. Burninghamheather at gmail.com. And that will also be in the show notes.
Okay.
And then if they reach out to you in good faith, then you can give them your phone number. But I would be nervous to just toss that out there. I think
I think that's probably wise, Jared.
Mayor de Blasio.
You know me, I'm just like, everyone's loving, everyone's good.
Yeah, everyone's loving. Oh, what is that? Don't zoom in. Don't zoom in. Don't.
Yeah.
Mayor de Blasio found out the hard way about giving out phone numbers.
Did you see that story?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The high point of my year was he put out the tattletale line where you can text a tattletale picture of people standing too close to each other, and an avalanche of penises came in. And
oh no. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that to me.
Yeah, so yeah, Heather burninghamheather at gmail.com. Reach out.
Yeah.
She also does eyelashes. So if anybody wants to have their eyelashes done, that sounds like that would be an extremely therapeutic session of eyelashes too.
She doesn't just do eyelashes. She has like a cult-like following.
Yeah.
Who only go to Heather to get their eyelashes done. I have never been able to. I had them done once, and I cry too much, so they burned and burned and burned, and everyone says, "Oh, you just have to go to the right person." So everyone says, "Just go to Heather to get them done." Anyway,
you're so sweet. I love my clients. We definitely have developed some awesome relationships. So.
It's a cult-like following for sure.
It is that. But yeah, if you have any questions, and the sessions are, I enjoyed mine. Yes, mine wasn't. I didn't see past Jared again because this is the first try, but people don't believe.
You're the perfect example of cracking the door.
Yes,
cracking the door.
Yeah. You can't just kick the door in on.
Like you didn't have a door, you had a tear.
Yeah.
You had to work through the tear. This is you. This is your mental mind letting your soul come through, and so we'll get there. We'll get there faster next time. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And I am going to do it again. You will hear a further report. And I also want to have Heather on again. The show's kind of long, and we'll have to schedule another one because she does have a story about aliens.
You do.
Yes.
So yeah, and I kind of segued into that by asking, do you believe in aliens? And yes, according to her experiences, yeah, that like it's likely. It you know, which is interesting,
Mm-hmm.
just a story all on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm interested in aliens because I just believe that there's absolutely no way that we could possibly know everything about everything. So it's absurd to think that we are literally the people inhabiting this planet today, that this is it.
I'm interested in aliens because I want to know how to kick while kegeling.
For crying out
To run.
loud.
That's my deep interest. I'm interested in them in a self-defense fashion.
Oh, for crying out
Because when they come
You're a hoot.
Is
rage
there a point to kind of close this out? Is there a point where our souls are no longer taking on physical bodies, but instead have different responsibilities, so to speak, in the larger scheme of thing, where we either age out or have learned? Am I going to eventually know everything? I guess is where this question is going. Am I going to know it all eventually? And are there ways?
and
because
will
listen-
she be a pompous ass when she gets to
Yeah,
that point?
because
and
listen-
No, because she'll be all loving and unconditional.
all other souls are just like Betsy talks. They'll just go, oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
if we just talk, this life has been very difficult for me. And if I've agreed to more, can I take it back? Is it too late? Can I?
it's always a choice. It looks like it's always a choice to when you come and when you don't. But it does appear that eventually you do kind of graduate, for lack of better words, and continue to work on whatever it is your soul needed to learn to be the best, whatever you are, a spirit guide, guardian angel, working on creating other universes, whatever your soul desire was to become. Once you've picked up enough of those experiences in your lives and information, then it does appear that you go on to fulfill your life in those ways. Now, here's the question. I've had regressions where they suggest, someone who's regressed suggested someone from their soul family or one of their teachers is now that.
kind of nirvana.
So far, we're only given, like, I can ask questions. I can ask them to ask questions. And they'll either say, we're not talking about that, or, so you do hit a point of like, where they're like, that information isn't useful for this soul's growth right now, or whatever.
Maybe they don't want
Sometimes little questions will get answered, but usually there seems to be kind of a shut off point there.
Maybe they don't want it rushed. They don't want someone to come down with soul knowledge and then at a toddler focus on that lesson and then try to die before they're 5 to do it again to learn the next lesson they want.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be it. So, and we have to respect those boundaries, right? We are asking for their permission at the beginning, and you guys know, at the beginning we ask, we offer up a meditation prayer asking for all of our guides to work together and for what is in the best interest of your soul and your growth at that time, that is where we'll be taken. And so we have to respect that if there's a boundary that we get to that is no longer going to serve your soul for its best purposes here, then we have to respect those boundaries. And it's a beautiful relationship if there's respect.
My soul's going to have this great big forehead. He's going to be drooling in the corner.
Oh, for crying out.
And I'm just going to be like, oh, God.
Oh, so funny.
Well, we definitely need to schedule next sessions with you.
The next session.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We want to dive in deeper on the next show. I want to hear the alien story again. And
okay.
And this has probably been good that the other show was so audio corrupted that it was unbearable, because that was your first time doing an interview, and we didn't understand how to interview. And this one's been a lot looser and a lot lighter. And
Yeah, we've had some interactions together. We've had some experiences together. You guys have had your own experiences, so I think so helpful, for us to be able to talk back and forth. You've been through it. So yeah.
And next time we'll have to have you back over here and we'll do it in person where the phone won't die and
Yeah.
I love it. You guys are always so fun. I just enjoy your company.
Yes.
Thanks for coming today, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Many more questions now. So
Anytime. And if you, in another class or some of your meditations or studies, come across any new information, reach out to us. Even if you're just on
I'd love to.
15-minute blurb. That's still, it's knowledge being put out, and knowledge is entertainment is the best knowledge.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, it is an extremely profoundly healing thing to do for yourself to have this regressive therapy, no matter where you're at, because I think, as she's mentioned, you'll only go as far as you're comfortable. I don't ever want people to be afraid of it, because I was almost afraid of it. Like, oh my gosh, what am I? And
I was nervous. I was going to be.
And it really is not something to be afraid of. And it,
I'm still afraid. I didn't see.
But I think, what we didn't mention this time that I think people do need to know, I am not going to say jump up and down on a stage and you're a chicken and balk like a chicken. You have your faculties about you. It is like being in that perfect state where you're just falling into that deep sleep, where if someone said your name, your eyes would open.
It's not.
You're there. You're conscious.
Complete consciousness.
Yeah.
During the whole.
You're not going to be led. You'll remember. You'll remember all of it because you're there.
It's going to be like, put on this ski mask.
Right.
10 miles north. There's a.
I think people get terrified because they think, what if I say something? You can still control what you're saying.
You have to.
It's more like being super relaxed, like that moment right before you fall asleep. It's more like that. There was none of that where she's like, you're getting very sleepy and none of that.
Yeah, it's not what it's been portrayed.
But if you do want to practice making someone balk like a chicken, that would be hilarious for you to do.
Yeah, I won't take someone's agency like that. It's not what I'm about. So.
If you want to teach me how to hypnotize people, Betsy, come on over. Have a seat.
So funny.
Yeah, it's not what you would imagine it to be. It's very healing. I know several people personally who are very interested in having this done, and I think it would be super beneficial for anyone, even if you don't feel like, like, I'm fine, like I don't have anything wrong. I think it's always important to broaden the scope of your knowledge and to expand. The idea that everything already is absurd.
Mm-hmm. Like, I agree. I'm always learning, even through my experiences with this. I'm always like, oh, that's new. That's amazing. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And thank you guys for, it's been an honor for me, for you to be so vulnerable and to let me, join you on that path. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for offering to be our Bikram.
No.
Not a dirty.
That's not it.
You're what Bikram should be, guiding people. Yeah, I've been listening to shows about him, and that's a profound thing to me. Is he come in with this idea that, and maybe it comes from, because there are some schools of the Hindu religion where that are obviously written by an abuser. Mm-hmm. Maybe he comes to it from that, but he comes in offering this help and takes more than I believe he could ever give. And that grosses me out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that whole story is a bit of a shame, I think. So
it really is.
There could have been some really beautiful healing things to come from that. And
Heather didn't do any of that with us.
No. No, it's a great experience.
It was pleasant. Really, and you go down to this, she's got a room in her basement that's It's
That sounds creepy
not
already.
it's like a hippie room. I thought I'd go in there and I'd have to walk through beads. No,
It's very clinical.
it's
and
not
it's-
even clinical. It's a room where you walk in and you automatically, it just feels calm. Just the way the room is
Thank you.
set up feels calm. Yeah, I mean, you walk in there and you have to adjust to, oh wow, this feels calm. Like even if she ran a daycare in the room outside of it, it would be such a stark contrast.
It is a very sacred space to me, so I do a lot of energy work in there.
Yeah, I mean, the room feels calm, and I felt that right away.
Yeah.
Good.
So awesome. Thanks for joining us
Yes.
today, Heather. And
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to you again real soon. Again, burninghamheather@gmail.com. Shoot her.
And maybe just put like regression or past life or something in subject line. So
Yeah, just in the
I
subject.
know.
Announce the intention in the subject so that he looks at it and doesn't think you want her to up her car warranty or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, reach out to her and I think this is a very good thing to go through to kind of get guidance on what your goal would be, what your life path would be.
yeah, I think we're all searching for purpose, either intentionally or unintentionally. And this is a pretty great thing.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. And I'll reach out to you and we'll schedule another conversation here over the next month.
Okay, that sounds fantastic.
All right. And
Thanks, Heather.
well, before then, also we will go under the proverbial knife and have another session done.
That's right. We'll have another go at it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm
All right.
excited to see where we get. So
Yes. Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks. You guys too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Not a sign of a human. Why does it feel? Not a sign of a human.